10 players who take the next step for Jacksonville. I'll tell you who they are. This edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joining us here once again on Locked On Jaguars podcast. I am Tony Wiggins, your host, the Locked On Jaguars podcast, with your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I want to remind you that we're free on all platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there, and it's free. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube page also. Today's show and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of the NFL. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Well, we got some stuff to talk about today. I'm going to name 10 guys who are extremely important. Now, important to me means they have to develop a little bit further because the Jaguars are picking lower with less salary cap, as we've been talking about for the last couple of days. So that means that they won't have the obvious opportunities to grab super talented players, and it means their evaluation has to be up to par. Or they're going to need development from certain guys to improve certain aspects of their game. And I named 10 of them. Everybody doesn't need to improve. Some guys need to get healthy. That's another caveat. So we'll go down that lane today. Also, any new listeners we have here, man, make sure you slide on over to the Locked On Jaguars YouTube page. We're free everywhere. New people, you don't have to act like new people. You can act like you can come in, you can put your foot on the couch, because once you come in, you're family, right? So you don't have to sit back and ask us, can you go get something out of the refrigerator? You just go ahead and do it. You are as welcome as anyone, whether it's your first day or your 2100th day here with me on Locked On Jaguars. All right, let's get down to it. We know we got Trevor Lawrence, right? Got Doug Peterson. So there's a couple of aspects and a couple of things that also have to happen for the Jaguars to actually get better. Because as you saw, and even Trevor Lawrence in his letter that he penned said, it ain't good enough, right? Or it wasn't good enough. So how do you get better? One way, and that's the area that we're going to address today, is player development and just guys getting more experience and getting older. Sometimes it's guys getting into a contract year, or sometimes it's dudes who are 2 years removed from an injury and they just show up and show out and they step up their game like Juwan Taylor did last year. By the way, he's on this list again. I'll just give that to you. Other ways the team's going to get better is if they can figure out a way to either reduce their salary cap by trading people, or if they can figure out a way to manipulate the salary cap to the point where they can actually go out and add someone or two. And then the other thing is draft and eval really, really well. We talked to Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators, who was at the Senior Bowl, and he mentioned some names for some people. The reason why we mentioned some of those dudes that turned out to be really, really good in the NFL is because the Jaguars need to hit on some of those. They hit on Luke Fortner last year in the draft, played really, really well. Some people can say Devin Lloyd needs a little bit of help. Is he on the list? We'll see. But the thing is it doesn't hurt that you get ready-made guys who are ready to go in the National Football League. But it doesn't happen like that. If they are if they're very successful, what they'll end up doing is doing what the Chiefs and the Eagles did, and that's hit the trifecta. Hit the draft, hit player development, and be able to make sure you add the right people in free agency. So without further ado, let's get down to it. We mentioned a couple in the first segment, a couple in the second, and then third segment, and then make sure we tie a bow on it at the end. First person, this is not Trevor Lawrence. 10 people not named Trevor Lawrence that need to improve for the Jaguars. And where are they going to get the talent? We talked about the draft. Now we're going to talk about their own players. Travis Etienne, and I know he came off of an injury this past season, had 1,100 yards rushing, had even more when you think about the total yards, was a home run threat, was all of that stuff. But people noticed at the end of the game and in the playoffs, they took him out. And folks thought, well, is he unhealthy? Nope, wasn't unhealthy. Could it be pass protection that he's struggling with? Maybe. Maybe it's a combination of both. But the great players find a way to be in that game and not have JaMychal Hasty out there. In the fourth quarter, you need Travis Etienne in the game. So he's the first player that I mentioned on this list that has to improve and get better. I don't know if it's the physicality. I don't know if it's I don't think he ducks the physicality. I think he almost looks for it too much. And it seems like every time he gets tackled, dude, it's like a cheetah and a gazelle. You know, when the cheetah trips the gazelle and the gazelle falls, it's like every single hit looks like he's getting blown up. So I asked somebody and they said, well, it looks like he's running behind his legs instead of running behind his pads. And I was like, what does it mean? What do you mean by that? Well, you're running with your legs, you're trying to score a touchdown. So when you get hit, suddenly everything jerks around. But when you're running behind your pads, which means I want to get a touchdown, but I want to also deliver a blow and not take it. And sometimes when you're just 210, 215-pound guy, you just need to go down, man. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. I wasn't going to get out of the first segment without mentioning this name because it's obvious that this is a big name for the Jaguars, and he has to show up and show out. That is Calvin Ridley, who was suspended all last year, and he missed a large chunk of the season before that. The Jaguars made a trade for him at the trade deadline and were able to give up some future capital for Calvin Ridley with the hope, and it's weighted. If he doesn't pan out, the capital goes down, but if he does, it goes up. He has one more year in his contract. Last we saw Calvin Ridley, he was one of the top 12 receivers in the NFL, had really, really blossomed, turned into a deep threat, was a guy who could eat up the route tree, caught everything. Rumor has it he is in superior shape so that he's going to be able to pick up right where he left off in his last season with the Falcons. So hopefully Calvin Ridley can be one of those guys that, and I got my little list here. Y'all know when I do my work, if you're watching on YouTube, I always got to keep my little list here, man, because sometimes my memory just goes in and out. But those are the first two guys I mentioned. We're going to get to some more of them. Travis Etienne getting better. This isn't like I'm not concerned about them, but these guys need to improve and be better than they were last year to go along with any new guys that get free agency or to go along with anyone they happen to draft who is ready to play. Now, the likelihood of that happening goes down a little bit, you would think, because they're picking later. But the Chiefs picked late, and they got 6 starters last year out of 7 people. So it could be done with proper evaluation and knowing the kind of guys that you want on your football team. You just go out and figure out a way to get it done. That's right. You just got to find a way, and hopefully the Jaguars can hit this in a 3-pronged way. Like I said, all of the areas that have to be hit. You just hope that they get it right. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's exactly what you hope for. So I have to let you guys know first, before we continue that, about our sponsor today, which is Blue Nile. That's right. Blue Nile, man, I told you about it last year, 2 years ago. I got my wife a very nice piece, a very nice pendant, and she is going to remember it forever. And you can do the same thing because Valentine's Day is coming up, which means romance is in the air more than usual. I don't need to tell you lovebirds. You probably had your date plans on the calendar for weeks. You know where you eat that and all of that stuff. But you have to find the perfect Valentine's Day gift. Whether you're celebrating this day of romance or whether you're ready to pop the question, you can find jewelry as unique as she is with the modern convenience of online shopping at Blue Nile. At Blue Nile, you can find the perfect piece of jewelry for life's special moment or even create the custom engagement ring of her dreams. Every order is insured and arrives quickly in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shipping is free and so are returns. Right now, you can save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com for up to 50% off. BlueNile.com. Y'all better handle y'all business, man, handle your business on this great holiday. I want to let you guys know also about one of our new sponsors. It is FanDuel. That's right. FanDuel, and I am absolutely, totally excited to the point where I want to do cartwheels because I have been a fan and been doing business with FanDuel for a long time now. I'm really, really glad that FanDuel is here with us on Locked On, and I can introduce you to it as well. FanDuel is the number one, quite frankly, look, it's just the number one sports book in America. That's right. It's number one. And we're really excited about our new sports betting partner. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. You heard me, if it doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. I'm telling you, man, I have been the parlay king 5 out of 7 years. Super Bowl time, I have hit the parlay. One of them, I won about $8,000. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/locked on to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, rolling right along here on segment 2. We're glad that you make us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars every single day. I'm your host, Tony Wiggins. This is what I do, man. We talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and what we do is hope that they improve to match that great quarterback and that great coach that they have. We mentioned Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley, 2 of the 10 guys that I think are most important, and it's most important because I think that they need to improve certain aspects of their game to elevate this franchise. I'm going to go with Luke Fortner. Really, Luke Fortner's fine technique-wise, the center, the second-year center. All he has to do is get a little bit stronger, and I think that's what occurs in the offseason. Players don't really get strong and work on their strength during the season. Those are some things that they can do to be able to anchor down a little bit more, put a little bit of extra muscle on in the offseason, and hopefully he's working on that right now. And he just has to get a little bit stronger, and nothing makes you want to go and get bigger and better and stronger and work harder than going out there and playing well, but knowing that you can play a little bit better, and also knowing that, hey, these guys are strong. Guys like Chris Jones, guys like Aaron Donald, in order to win a Super Bowl and a championship, you got to tighten everything up. So Luke Fortner is a real good player, but I want him to get a little bit stronger if he's going to help elevate the Jaguars. Walker Little is number 4. Now, this is a touchy one because I don't know what shape Cam Robinson is going to be in. I don't know if the team is definitively going to keep Jawan Taylor. I hope they do. But whether they do or not, Walker Little has to show some improvement, because if one of those guys gets hurt next year, he's going to have to go right back in just like he did this year. He did well early, didn't do too well against the Kansas City Chiefs, but a lot of people won't do well. But like I said about Luke Fortner, he's another player that has to learn a little bit. And then if he does improve and the Jaguars can't keep Jawan Taylor and they take a little look-see at Walker Little, especially if he's working out here in the city at the facility, they'll know what they have in him and they'll know what they have to do before the draft starts. So Walker Little has to definitely keep getting better, because I think for this to work, the Jaguars have to get those really, really good trench players and those linemen like the 2 teams that are in the Super Bowl, because that is the standard that I'm holding this team to moving forward if they're going to maximize Trevor Lawrence. Jamal Agnew, I know you're going to say, how can he get better? He had 2 critical plays this year. One of them did not end up resulting in them losing. It was a fumble that he had, I believe, against the Titans, and, of course, the fumble in the divisional game against the Chiefs. It's not like him. He's not the type of person to put the ball on the ground. He does everything you want in the kicking game and the return game. We can't have him do that in the limited touches that he has. He has to hold on to the ball in those critical junctures, because I do believe he's one of the most explosive players, but you got to be dependable, and they got to be able to count on you, and they can't trust you in those big moments. You'll see they won't give you the ball. So hopefully it's just some fluky stuff, but he can get over it mentally. But the thing is, he does have to show some improvement in these big moments and holding on to the football. Y'all saying, Wig, you tough, man. You hard on real good players. This is what we got to do if we're going to elevate to that next level. Jawan Taylor, I just want him to re-sign. And then if he resigns or plays with the tag, I want that first year to be just like this year, as opposed to like it was maybe the first 2 years that he was playing under a whole different staff. So Jawan Taylor, don't get happy because you had a good year. I think Jawan Taylor needs to work harder this offseason than he's ever worked in his entire life, because now he's about to get to the money, and now he's got to prove that he's worth it. And if that happens, hopefully he'll be back with the Jacksonville Jaguars and we'll come back and nobody will point a finger in my face saying, we told you we shouldn't have re-signed Jawan Taylor. I think Jawan Taylor, even though I think he's really, really good right now, I think he could go to another stratosphere with another real good offseason where he stays healthy. He comes into camp healthy. And if he can get out there, I'm talking about he could be an all-pro if he continues to work at it, and he could change the entire trajectory of his career so far. I think he's been really, really good. Trayvon Walker is number 6, and I know he's actually number 7. There are people that think I'm a Trayvon apologist. I'll be that. I'll take it, because what I'm working and arguing against when I talk about Trayvon Walker mostly is the fact that I don't view the draft as meaning that you got to draft a guy first who's going to have the best rookie year. I think you draft a guy that you think is going to have the best career. And usually you start to see that in year 2. Jawan Taylor plays the run very well. He's violent. He banged on guys. I saw him tackle guys from the backside, and those guys walked and limped out of the game. He created some holding penalties. He was starting to get chipped. Even on running plays, they were double teaming him and chipping him because he was playing so well. Then he had a high ankle sprain. I think it was against Tennessee in the game in the regular season, and he got banged up. But he had hit his stride for like 2 games while the Jaguars were making their run, and had played really, really well for Jacksonville down the stretch. He just at some point he had a high ankle sprain. He tried to come back, and he played okay, but most people are just going to look at the sack numbers. And I have to say this. Yannick Ngakoue had the sack numbers, but people say, well, we can't pay him because he doesn't play the run. Then with Trayvon Walker playing the run, they say, well, we didn't use the number 1 pick on the guy to play the run. We need him to get sacks. At some point, I know there's a happy medium with that, but people really need to kind of make their mind up of what kind of position they're going to take when it comes to this. Trayvon Walker can get plenty of rush. His problem, in my opinion, is disengaging. I think he does what a lot of young, strong people do. He takes it personal with him and that guy. And I think as long as he believes he's pushing that guy back and he has leverage and he's moving on, I think he believes I'm winning. If you're doing twist action, that's true. If you're moving your guy out of the way and you're clearing the lane for a linebacker, all of that's true. But in this case, there were a bunch of times where he was this close and he was a half a second late. What he has to do, in my opinion, is create separation and disengage once he has the leverage. And that half a second that he's missing, it'll close up just like that. So, yeah, he has a lot of work to do. I'll be interested to see who he works with, whether it's somebody like Robert Mathis or Chuck Smith. Interested to see who Trayvon Walker works with in the offseason. I got 3 more for you, man. One of them's kind of obvious. The other 2 are just guys that I think can really, really help the Jaguars go to the next level. I'll tell you about all of them in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Got to let you know about today's sponsor. It is TurboTax. And I know it's tax season, and I know that word is something that a lot of people don't want to hear, but it's part of life and it's necessity. So you better make the best of it. You need to go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Yeah, I said it. Go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who'll do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do not taxes. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of hot taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset. Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax. Full service products only. Video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Thank you for joining me here again in segment number 3, making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. Your second listen should be Locked On NFL. Every single day, Monday through Friday, there's a podcast on Locked On NFL. They have their own channel on YouTube, and they are wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you find them on whatever platform. It is also free. Great stuff from around the NFL from all of your hosts. I am one of them. I will be there every Wednesday with my co-host James Rapine. But make sure you get on with it at Locked On NFL and make it your second listen. All right, 3 more players in these 10 players that have to improve. I'm going to name him last. I'm going to skip over him. I'm going to go to Devon Hamilton. Good year this past year. But I think he can do a little bit more. I think he can become one of the dominant 320-pound defensive tackles in the National Football League and make the Jaguars want to keep him after he becomes a free agent at the end of next season and maybe work his deal a little bit early. He does a lot. He stops the run. He goes down the line. He chases plays. He even rushes the passer some, and he does a very good job of it. So Devon Hamilton is someone I want to see a little bit more from in order to elevate this team, because you're going to need guys who are already playing well to play a little bit better. As Trevor said, it wasn't enough. Andre Cisco, who took a big step. Now, I mentioned early in the show that Cisco was one of the guys that I said someone who was 2 years removed from a knee injury. He was 2 years removed from a knee injury last year. Now it's his 3rd year. And I think he is going to be one of the dudes in the NFL that really makes people pay for real estate from the free safety position. He was bouncing guys all around the field last year, and I think it's going to take a step further, go up a step further. He even had a pick 6 for a touchdown, and I think he can have 2 or 3 or more of those in him. I think Andre Cisco has Pro Bowl and All-Pro ability. I just think he needs more experience, keep working hard in the offseason, and I think he'll get it. Of course, all of these guys have to stay healthy. We don't mention the I word here. We just say we need him to stay healthy. Last but not least, Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd, in my opinion, has to improve, and I think he has to improve more than anyone who is on this list, because I think he's the one that was a little more disappointing after a hot start, and then he finished pretty strong. I think they're looking for a little bit more consistency from Devin Lloyd. I am too. I want to see Devin Lloyd be more consistent so that he doesn't have to come off the field. They don't have to go to a 4-3. They can keep him in a 4-2-5, and he can guard tight ends and guard people that run across his face. I think film study, a little bit better conditioning, and not having a hamstring injury this year is going to help him be able to do that. So there you go. Those are the 10 players I want the Jaguars to improve, improvement, and the guys that I'm more or less not worried about, but think they can be the ones to really elevate this team and ride with Trevor as they go up the chain in the National Football League. Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley, Luke Fortner, Walker Little, Jamal Agnew, Juwan Taylor, Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Devon Hamilton, and Andre Cisco. Guys are already playing well. I just want them to play better to get them to that next level and maybe make it to the AFC Championship. And if you do that, you never know what happens. Make sure you lock in with us here on Locked On Jaguars. Enjoy the big game this weekend at Super Bowl 57. Make sure you hit up FanDuel, as I said, and no sweat first bet. That's right, with FanDuel. Take care of each other, man. Enjoy. I will do the same. We'll be in Jamaica for the Super Bowl, but be right back, same place, same time, this time next week. Until then, you guys take care of yourself.